You are listening to 87.1 Caroline Radio, KCGN Bakersfield, your home for all your variety hits. And of course, Blind Advocate Radio. Hey, everybody. Welcome back, listeners from around the world. I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm glad you had a good week. This evening, I have a great pleasure in being joined by someone who has just told me that he has been on my podcast. At least this is his third appearance on the podcast. So we're really glad to have him. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, you will certainly remember him. He's a man from China. Now he lives in America. His name is Michael Munn, and he happens to be the host of Michael's Weekly Perspective. Michael from Michael's Weekly Perspective, welcome back. How's it going?
Thank you. Oh, everything is good on my end. Thank you, Aaron, for inviting me to your show.
My pleasure. So let's basically, dive right into it. I am not going to say the reason, what the reason is, but because I know what the reason is, I'm not going to say it. But we've noticed that you have not been publishing as much content lately, which is okay, which is fine. So basically, I will admit that I have not been listening to Michael's Weekly Perspective, and I would like to know what have been some of your opinions about the world these days and your perspectives, and really this summer, once you get back into it with the podcasting, where do you want to go with Michael's Weekly Perspective? I'll mute my microphone. I'll let you talk for a bit. Go right ahead.
All right. So basically, I have not published any content as of right now because, I need to take a break from it, and because many things happen in my family. And since you asked what's my opinion for now, like nowadays, I basically my opinion can be very cruel, very complicated because every time when I discuss things like sensitive topics, I usually go very right, and I do not hold neutral, side. I do not stand neutral. So yeah, for the future podcast,
nor do I, and that's so interesting. I'm going to have to interject a little. Nor do I. Certainly, I don't hold back at all. In fact, as far as podcasters go, I'm probably a pretty serious person to talk to. I have a very stern demeanor on my podcast for many reasons, but because I want this to be a really serious podcast that other people can relate to. So I definitely don't hold back. You said something interesting. You said that when you don't hold back, you go right on a lot of issues. Now, to a lot of American people, they might think you're talking about politics, but you really are not. What do you mean by you go right about certain things that you talk about? Expand it and give us a good example.
Right. Let's see. When I don't really hold neutral is because okay. Can you repeat that again?
So, for example, can you give us a time on your podcast on Michael's Weekly Perspective when you felt that you really took on an issue head on and really, really went for it, really attacked the issue, and you really were harsh about it, and as you said, and you were really controversial, maybe? Can you give an example? Yes.
Okay.
That's what I thought you were saying, but can you give an example of it? Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, sure, yeah. One episode when I was interviewing a guest from Disability Link, and we basically talked about the service of folk rehab, and she bring up this abbreviation. I don't know what was it, and I stopped her and asked what that stand for, and that's what I mean when I go harsh at something.
Okay, well okay. So perhaps the word is not harsh. Perhaps it's that you're a podcaster who gets the facts, who figures
Oh,
out
yes.
information and asks the right questions. Okay,
Yeah.
harsh would be for one example. Harsh would be if you said something which you never do. Just to clarify, you never say silly stuff, but if you said something silly or immature or bombastic, or if you said something weird, that would be kind of harsh. But you are not harsh um,
Yeah.
about certain things. You're someone who cares about what the facts are, and that's so good. So okay, so fine. And so, what are the future plans? So once you start uploading content, um, which I wish. Which, by the way, I wish we could get your podcast on Apple. It would be a lot easier for me to keep up with you if you were on Apple.
It is
Um,
on Apple Podcast.
it is?
Yes.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry, Michael. I didn't
To my
realize
great
that.
surprise, that I
Oh,
didn't realize it until late March.
okay. Well, I think it shouldn't be a surprise because you should get an email from iTunes. So it shouldn't be a surprise to the podcaster. Well, okay. Well, hold on then. I'll certainly subscribe to it on Apple Podcasts. You at home, listener, don't forget Michael's Weekly Perspective. Don't forget to add him on Apple Podcasts. He's doing a great job. I wonderful. Well, I will. Well, let me start listening to it then. So okay, what are your plans for this summer? Do you want to give us any sneak peeks, any secrets, any ideas for guests, any questions maybe you want to have answered? Go.
Oh, I have enhanced a lot of things in my podcast. First of all, I created a listener line for listeners who want to uh, leave a question or comment after I produced each podcast. And I also made an account on SoundCloud. It's like a more technological enhancement. And I also created a YouTube channel, so that way I can upload videos that I interviewed
Yeah,
of
yeah.
my guests that I've
I,
interviewed.
I know what the reason is, and it's not a big deal. I completely understand your logic, but I wish, on one hand, I wish you were on Spreaker, because Spreaker does all of the distribution all at once, even to YouTube. So it's like, one click, one tap with the voiceover, and then you're there all at once. Yeah, but that's so good that you're basically uploading to YouTube manually. That's good. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get more audience.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. So who would you like to talk to this year? And what are some big questions that you want to have answered? Some big topics that you want to try to cover.
Oh, I typically don't have any big questions that I usually play along when I, think something is important, and then I contact, a person who knows more about it, and then, I invite them to my podcast.
Hmm. Okay. Well, good. Good. Yeah, one of the things that I do, in case you're wondering at home, how do you become a guest on Aaron's Opinion? One of the things I do is I look for people in the audience who are saying interesting things, or are asking interesting questions, or are sharing interesting information that I think other people can relate to. So that is a really important feature or skill set, I think. Um, so how are things in another question that I want you to talk about a little bit more is, I know that you're very active with NFB. I know you're very active with other blind students. I believe you're living somewhere in Georgia. What is going on there in Georgia as it relates to NFB issues, school, things like that?
Oh, it's very peaceful here in Georgia affiliate of the National Federation of the Blind. Of course, I joined the student division as soon as I get settled in Georgia. That was like, I moved in to my sister's house on Sunday, and I joined the student division immediately 24 hours later, because, networking is very important. And right now, we're getting ready for the NFB National Convention. To my great surprise, that this year is going to be online, the convention.
And why is that a surprise?
You know, a lot of people before the COVID-19 was a big problem, think that they're going to, they might have to, go to Houston for it. And look, I wasn't registered at that point until April that I heard NFB is doing the convention online and it's free. This is a great surprise for me back then because, I love to go to the convention, but the room was filled at the hotel, and then I have to pay extra money for transportation and stuff like that.
Right. So you're very relieved that the convention will be held online and will be free.
Oh yes, yeah.
And so are they just going to hold it over Zoom, all of the events on Zoom?
Oh yes, they're holding it on Zoom, which I am worried because, there will going to be more than 3,000 people, and I'm afraid that Zoom might not be able to hold up that much people, which some people might experience interruptions.
It's entirely possible, but I know that NFB is going to be I would imagine that NFB would be contacting Zoom and explaining the situation and asking for some sort of a special ID that can handle that. Obviously, one person can't just invite 3,000 people to one meeting. I don't think you can.
No, you cannot.
You cannot. Yeah. So yeah, NFB would have to use their accounts, their special accounts to create meetings of that magnitude, I guess.
Yeah.
So specifically, what meetings are you going to be attending over Zoom?
Oh, mainly the student meeting, like the National Association of Blind Students annual meeting, which they elect new board members and leaders within the student division, and technology presentation such as the famous Eric Damery's JAWS presentation, and probably HumanWare's presentation to see what's going on in HumanWare, and JAWS for Windows, and that will also allow me to interact with the people behind the scene face to face.
Good. Excellent. Yeah. And what are your plans for the fall?
Oh, for the fall, I might plan to go to training in one of the NFB training center, which I'm hoping to go to training in Colorado Center for the Blind in Littleton, Colorado.
For some reason, I thought you already did a program like that, a training program like that.
Oh, right. I went to the summer program at the Louisiana Center for the Blind, which was 8 weeks program.
Yeah, I remember that. So that's interesting. So what do you hope to gain by going to CCB?
I'm hoping to get a GED program, a GED, to finish a GED program within 9 months, and to improve my independent skills, and that including cane travel and computer skills.
Good. Well, that's great. If they can offer you a Colorado diploma, that would be good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And then would you stay out there in Colorado or come back to Georgia? What do you think? Or do you have to just play it by ear and see how it goes?
I might have to play by ear. If Colorado have good colleges, then I might, not. I might stay in Colorado if